Hello, everyone, and welcome to Language of Leadership. I'm your host, Mark Iorio, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Rich Carroll today. Rich is the principal and co-founder of Maximus Partners. It's great to have you on the pro. Oh, by the way, check this out, guys. Look at the jackets. They're
Same coat.
identical. Same
Yeah.
jacket. Great
That's
to have
right.
you, man.
Thanks.
How are you?
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm doing great.
Good.
It's a little rainy out, so it's a nice little drive in.
Yeah,
But
well, it wasn't bad from Phoenixville.
yep, that's right. Yeah.
So on language of leadership, Rich, a lot of times we talk about just not just the language that we use as leaders of organizations, but how we change or take that language and how that manifests into behavior, right? And you've worked with some pretty interesting companies over your career path. Some probably great cultures,
Great cultures, great leaders.
cultures, probably some not so great cultures,
Sure.
maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, now at Maximus, we'll talk about that in a minute, but what are the things that you've learned over time with regard to leadership and how how that language that you use manifests itself into great behavior?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of like living the same way that you lead, or coaching and leading in the same elements. Meaning, like, if I have a team, I want to make sure that I'm kind of dropping in and doing everything that they're going to do and setting the right expectations with the team.
Yep.
And so, like, if I expect them to do one thing, I need to do it. And if I expect everyone on the team to act in one way, let's just say simple things like, show up for time, like for meetings, be present, not be on your phones, etc. I have to hold other people accountable for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like I'm smiling because a lot of that is the way we treat our family too,
Yeah,
right? The kids,
absolutely.
right? The kids
Right.
growing up, you sit around the dinner table with your wife and your kids, and it's the Carroll name on the back
Right.
of our jersey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like, I mean, I always think about, like, if I tell my son, that he needs to get something done, I have to hold him accountable for it.
Yeah.
It's the same with the team environment at work.
absolutely. So, talk a little bit about the career path, Rich, because you've had some really interesting.
Yeah, my career path's a little
Yeah,
different
it's
for a
different.
CFO.
Yeah, for CFO, yeah.
Yeah, so I went to school and I thought I wanted to be an econ major. And my professor at the time, who actually, my daughter goes to the same college now, and this professor runs the Business Fellows program.
No kidding.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
But I remember her sitting down with me, and I wanted to be an econ major. And she's like, Rich, what do you want to do with your career? And I was like, I have no idea. She's like, you're not very good at economics, so you shouldn't be an econ major. So she made me a minor in economics. And she's like, focus on business. You're more of a business
Way to
person.
prop me up.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I ended up being an international business major with a minor in economics.
Okay.
But still, it was so broad, I didn't know what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
I kind of followed my guidance from peers and mentors, which is go out into a big company. I went to a company, Unisys, started in the billing department, and quickly I think it was identified that by some of my peers and some of my bosses that I was a little different in the way that I approached things. So they quickly pulled me out and put me in a corporate finance role. And from there, I got really lucky. It was back when the dot-com bubble was going on.
Yeah.
And the company had decided to invest in a whole bunch of different small startups inside of the umbrella of the company. And they hired all these CEOs and they moved me in. And I was basically the financial modeler. And they brought in a coach to teach me how to model. But I still wasn't sure I loved corporate finance. I went back and got my MBA, went to school at night. My MBA then focused on management information systems, not finance.
Interesting.
And I went out and was doing financial systems implementations and consolidations for another company for 4 years, which taught me how to understand data, how data moved inside companies, how to analyze data, how to rip data apart, how to get to anything. And that kind of jump-started my career. I moved back into corporate finance, and now I had this unique ability to go deep inside of data, pull it out, refine it, and connect the dots. And I moved into financial planning and analysis at Icon Office Solutions.
It's interesting that working for a big company like Unisys. I mean, that almost gives you an MBA,
Right.
kind of kickstart, right? When you're working for
Absolutely.
an organization like that, and when you're dealing with corporate finance, a lot of times, Rich, people think that you don't need to communicate. You don't need to talk to one
Right.
another. You sit in your little silo, you do your little job, and we'll worry about the data coming out of
Yeah.
it. But that's not the way it works.
No, not at all.
Right?
No.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and one of the things that also made me really good is I was able to, with my personality style, I like to support people. I like to help people be successful. And so I was quickly able to take the financial planning analysis model, which back then this was a little different in terms of where we are today, and really lean into business partnership and make the sales leaders and the service leaders look really good with the data and give them forward-looking intelligence with the dashboards and the analysis that we were able to do. I built up a couple teams. I moved out to Arizona, built a team there.
Wow.
They moved me back. We went through an acquisition. We were acquired by Ricoh. This was Icon.
Yeah.
And what was interesting with back then is 60% of our sales were Canon, and Ricoh bought us. So they kind of turned off the faucet on the Canon side, which led to a lot of restructuring. Strategic move by them, brilliant move. But it meant that we had to kind of cut a lot of people from the team globally. And so I was involved in a lot of restructuring. So you learn a lot of lessons from a lot of that in terms of change management. I'm a huge proponent of change management and why it's critically important. Strategic planning, communication, understanding that people are going through different emotions. And so if you can weave that into finance, you can be a very successful finance leader.
Yeah. You said something a minute ago that that resonates. It really resonates with me, Rich, and that is that a lot of times, sales, finance, IT, operations, marketing, they're in their own little box. And when you're feeding data to the sales team or the marketing team or the IT team, that's helping break down those silos.
Absolutely.
And I think that from a communication standpoint, you have this predisposition to be able to be that communicator, right? How important is that? And in running a business, not just the size of Unisys
Right.
or Icon, but the companies that you're working with now.
Yeah, it's critically important. I mean, as a CFO in the last couple of companies I've been at, it was always just as important for me to have a sound controllership function, closing the books and everything from a finance perspective, that backwards looking. But the forward looking stuff was the stuff that really changes the game. Private equity does it really well where they invest heavily in that function, which is essentially moving finance to the middle of the company instead of a back office function, and then having a lot of the data spin around it. But the only way it works is if you then partner with the marketing lead, the sales lead, the service lead. And the way to do that is I can't be the partner. And so I have to trust my team, hire the right people, and put them in the right position to be mini me's, mini CFOs with that specific business leader.
Wow, that's so critical because so many companies lack the emergent leaders coming out of their organization, right? When you look at, we'll talk about acquirers later on or buyers of businesses later on, but a lot of times buyers will look at a company and they'll see, the leader there, right? But no one behind them.
Right.
But you've had a lot of leadership experience and you've had a lot of leadership courses over your career that have taught you a lot.
Right.
Share that with the audience.
Yeah, I was lucky. In college, there was a program called the Isabel Cannon Leadership Fellows Program that it was a 4-year program that I was involved in.
Wow.
So I went to leadership camps. I had to hold leadership positions on campus. And some of the things that I learned just through the camps and the seminars that I went to were things that they teach you in business, when you're 20 years in and you're now a manager or whatever. But I was learning it in college, and it went all the way through my career. I mean, one of the things that I'll never forget was this one speaker talked about that you're going to have a room of 10 people, and there's going to be people that are going to be more vocal. Don't let them dominate the conversation. And what they meant by that is the person in the back who's a little bit more introverted, point them out and ask them a question specific to what you're trying to solve. Give them an opportunity to step up and speak. And so it continues to flatline everything and put everyone on the same level playing field when you're trying to lead and solve problems.
Why do you think, just your own opinion, why do you think most leaders don't do that, Rich? What is the...
I think they're threatened. I think one of the other things that I learned is always hire people that want your job and that you know that we'll be successful one day, and don't hold them down and hold them back. But I think that also went, for me, being on that other side, is I wanted to be treated that way, because I knew that, whether it was Unisys or Icon, I wasn't going to be there forever. I had some interesting things that happened in my career early, where I was managing severance lists and seeing people get cut. And then when I was young, so I knew that I wasn't long at any of these companies, that it was going to be part of my journey.
Yeah.
And so what I did as a leader when I got into those leadership roles is I actually had conversations with everyone that worked for me about their career.
Yeah.
Like, what do they want to get out of this? Because it's going to be a stepping stone in their career. How do they then become, if they want to become a CFO, how do they get to being a CFO?
Yeah.
Where do they invest? They take a step back right now, go get their MBA, which, I've consulted a lot of people that work for me. Get your MBA now. This is going to be an easier time in your life. You're younger, you don't have kids yet. You have a job that feels hard, but you still have, an extra 40 hours a week if you really lean into it.
Exactly.
To get your education.
Sure. Yeah. I as you're answering that question about leaders who want, they feel like they want to control the narrative or control the business, and they're threatened.
Right.
I think sometimes they're envious of other people.
I do too.
You have this attitude where you want people to succeed. You're successful, but you want to see other people succeed.
Right.
And there's a feeling of, I guess it's abundance more so than scarcity. And where does that come from?
I think it probably comes from my dad. My dad was really big on that, which was get everyone around you to be, successful, and you're going to be ultimately very successful. And you don't have to be the most, but you should always look at, like, team sports. I love team sports, which is continue to upgrade around you. Teams win, individuals don't.
Right.
I saw that a lot in my career, and that was one of the things that I was also very big on, which is even all the way back to when I was a captain of a couple teams growing up, and won, like, rugby through college. I had to make tough decisions with my friends, which is, if you're not part of the team, and you're, like, in terms of that team environment, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And you have to be willing to make those tough decisions. That carries all the way through your career, which is,
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't matter if somebody went to Princeton as a rock star, but if they're a jerk, then they can't be part of it. I almost said a curse word, by the way, there. But I held back.
You could. It's streaming, man. We're good.
All right.
We're not governed by
There we
anything.
go.
I mean, it's fine. But the thing that I look at oftentimes, Rich, is that it's a very, very difficult decision. A lot of people think that they can make that decision, that tough decision where, if you're not going to be on the team, we can't have you here. There's the door. Good luck. God bless you. But, we've got to move on. But that's a tough decision to be in, in that leadership role.
And that goes back to that training that I had, which is one of the things that I learned early on, which is your team is going to look at you to make that hard decision.
Yeah.
And every day you wait, you lose confidence with them.
Absolutely.
So you have to, as bad as, like, nobody wants to make a lot of those decisions, but you just got to suck it up, and you got to be like, I have to do this for the rest of the team.
Yeah, that's tough. All right, we'll be right back. Folks, don't go away. We've got more with Rich Carroll after this message from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
I love that we both got an awesome network and save money doing it.
I know, $25. I love that it's guaranteed for 3 years.
Hey, we're sitting on a sign here.
Switch and get Welcome Unlimited for $25 a line, guaranteed for 3 years. Verizon.
Handled it, though. That's part of the thing that.
Yeah, I mean, you're
if you're-
empathetic.
Yeah, right. If you're blaming him, it's like your fault. You didn't do this. That's not what he knows. It's not what it is. So you have to just be real
Yeah,
with people.
exactly. Yep. looking good, man. Look at that. Look at that shot.
I love that we both got an awesome network and save money doing it.
I know, $25. I love that it's guaranteed for 3 years.
Hey, we're sitting on a sign here.
Switch and get Welcome Unlimited for $25 a line, guaranteed for 3 years. Verizon.
Welcome back to Language of Leadership. I'm your host, Mark Iorio. I've got Rich Carroll with me. Rich is the founding partner, co-founder, and principal at Maximus Partners. Great conversation because, a lot of people look at data and finance and they're like, you guys don't have any personality.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
You
Yeah.
don't need to communicate with anyone, but you do.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
right before the break, we were talking about like when you have to go through, and God bless you for not having to do this. Maximus is growing like crazy,
Right.
And we're going to talk about that in a second. But when you're on the other side of that, Rich, and you're seeing people get let go because you're downsizing, not you, but
Yes,
the
yeah,
company's
yeah.
downsizing. How tough is that? How difficult is that?
It's very tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very tough. And I think we were talking a little bit on the break. I mean, you have to be real with people with what the real circumstances are. They can completely see through everything.
Yeah.
You can't blame them for anything. You have to talk to them about what's happening in the business, whether the business is just struggling because the pipeline's weak or there's been changes in the macro environment. They know it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's segue into Maximus because this is an explosive business that you started with your partner
John Repchinski.
John, and
And Jamie Law, yeah.
and Jamie. Yeah, it's been amazing. What? First of all, let's go back to the beginning. Why did you start the business? What was the gap out there that you were seeing that you said, okay, we've got to do this?
Yeah, I think for me personally, so I've been a CFO 3 times now, been through 4 transactions. And what happens in that world, especially private equity backed companies, is you start to get put at the top of the list. And so the private equity firms are looking when they make an investment for somebody who's been through a private equity backed environment in that industry who's had a successful outcome. Well, the problem is that's a narrow list, right, of people.
Yeah.
And I personally don't think that that's the right recipe. And that was the impetus that I talked to John about originally when we decided to found this, which is I really think there's a lot of talented people out there that are CFOs or VPs of finance or controllers that are ready to make the leap, that just need the right opportunity and the right coach and the right development plan. And that was one of the reasons why we founded it, which was to enable those people to take that leap by partnering with people like me.
Yeah, perfect. Tell me a little bit about there's several business lines that you deal with at Maximus. You head up the CFO
CFO Advisory Practice. Yep,
right?
That's right.
But there's others. So talk about them because I think when people ask me about Maximus, I say that the simplest thing I can say is that you do a lot of forward-thinking, forward-looking financial planning, financial outlook, which a lot of companies don't do, right? So if I come in and I want to buy your business or buy a business, and I'm looking backwards. Okay, that's fine. That's great.
Yeah.
But that's history.
That's
I want
right.
to see the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, one of the simple things that we do, and we get a lot of introductions through, whether it's wealth managers, M&A attorneys, somebody who's like a trusted advisor to an entrepreneur or founder. And usually what's happened is they've hit an inflection point where things are starting to break. They've been able to bootstrap and build this phenomenal business, but they've done it without really investing in HR, finance, IT. It's really more front office, go-to-market sales, right?
Sales, marketing.
Or whatever their supply chain is. And so everything's starting to break, or there's some other thing that they're trying to work towards, which could be an exit. oftentimes that trusted advisor says to them, well, what's your EBITDA? Which is just, a calculation based off of profit where it adds back a few things like depreciation. And that usually is anchored on that times something is the value of the company. And they can't produce it. They don't have financials that are closed on time. They're not really sure what the number is because they're running personal expenses through the business. And some of these are $250 million businesses that we're seeing that are doing this. And then they're like, all right, well, that's not good. Can you tell us what your budget is? No, we do it on the back of an envelope. And so that whole recipe means, though, that there's really no faith in the numbers. Now, you can bring an investment banker in, and if you want to sell the company, and they will quickly rush you to market and put it for sale and sign out. Some of them, not all of them, really good ones will take a step back and pull people like us in. But really what they need to do is take time and look at everything, pull everything apart, get those financials, the backwards looking, sound and tied so they know what their true EBITDA number is. And then build out a strategic plan, understand the levers that you can pull to maximize your EBITDA, so to move that number up. By doing all of that, you can start to see the enterprise value move significantly. And we're seeing like rough numbers, enterprise values of like before we go in at like 40 million and when we're done like 70. I mean, it's that dramatic with these companies that we're helping.
That's amazing. Now, you built the business very, very quickly, and,
Yeah.
and it's scaling very quickly. You're finding great people. I want to know how you're doing that,
Yeah.
and then and how you, John, and Jamie are keeping the culture of Maximus.
Yeah.
The way you've basically started the business, right?
Yeah, we have people, we know our network. So what's beautiful about John and Jamie, the other business, so Jamie, one of the other business lines is recruiting. They know really everyone in the Mid-Atlantic that's been through finance positions at all the key companies. And so we know then curating the lists of people that we want to bring in on the CFO advisory side, we know the best of the best in the market, but it's a different recipe. It's like you have to be more in that, when we talked about the forward-looking versus backward-looking and the center of a company, you have to be more of that mindset. So you have to be more of an operational-driven CFO because you have to connect to that CEO just through that business partnership model and help them understand why finance is important, pull it into the middle of the business, help drive the operations and the analytics and the KPIs and the dashboards.
Yeah.
And those people out there also need to be able to drop in and roll up their sleeves. These companies we're going into, I mean, some of them are still on, even up to 250 million again, they're still in QuickBooks.
Yeah.
They still are not closing their books regularly. There's still cash accounting, not accrual accounting. It's pretty remarkable. And so that CFO that we put in there has to be able to roll up their sleeves. Now, we support them with a whole team, which goes back to the team concepts before.
Yeah.
We love the team model, which is also what makes us different in the market.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about Jamie's line too, because the recruiting side is really important, right? And a lot of folks, while there may be a lot of great VPs of finance out there or CFOs out there, what you need are people who have a strategic mindset,
Right.
Which
That's
is
right.
not very, it's kind of unique.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of our roles when we go in, we'll go in. So one of the things we talk to these founders about is you're on a growth journey. And on that growth journey, you're going to need a CFO one day. You're going to need a controller one day. We can play some of those positions as we build this out for you and do the CFO
right.
advisory temporarily, but you're going to have to hire them.
Yeah.
And so what makes it unique is we can use our team who's on the ground, who are finance people, to scope the roles correctly, while Jamie's team then goes and finds them.
Wonderful.
And she's got a fantastic network to be able to dive in and find those people.
Yeah.
But what's unique about that is, and this is some of the conversations I have with the CEO, is you had a broken finance function. You didn't know what a good finance function looked like. You shouldn't be recruiting this position on your own. You
Yeah.
need somebody to help you.
True.
Or you're going to end up in the same spot, right? And we've had several that ignore us, but then they come back to us later because they were like, "You were right. We really do need somebody who understands it to help us figure this out."
Yeah, you can only make those mistakes a couple times, man.
Right.
And then
They're costly.
They're very costly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about John's role?
So John's just as much involved in the CFO advisory side as the recruiting side as the business development side.
Okay.
And then John and I also spend a lot of time moving back and forth in business development.
Yeah. All right. So you go into map it out for us a little bit, Rich. You go into a client, and they $100 million business.
Yes.
I'm not going to say the finances are a mess, but let's just say they need your help.
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
what do you do first?
We go in and we do a 2 to 3 week assessment. That assessment is based on, my last 10 years as CFO, and then coupled together with all the other, 30 plus people we have on the team and their experiences.
Yeah.
And so we continue to refine it, but it's a productized approach. And the productized approach is we're looking at the 4 pillars of finance: FP&A, controllership, tax and treasury, with thinking of it as tax and controllership are kind of that backward-looking, FP&A and treasury are kind of that forward-looking.
Yep.
And then we're looking at it multidimensionally. So, we always hear the term people, process, technology. That's the lens that we're looking through. Do you have the right team? Do you have the right processes? Take something like the close process. Are your books being closed in 5 business days like they should be?
Right.
Is it accrual accounting, so forth? And then the technology stack that you're using. We see a lot on QuickBooks, and it's okay in some cases, but it usually needs to be heavily controlled through the processes, or it's garbage out, right?
Yeah.
And then what we're doing is going through that assessment, and we're trying to identify the high-risk areas that can be prioritized and the high-return areas that are going to drive expense savings through the P&L.
Okay.
When we come out of that, I guess the last piece that we're looking at, we're assessing the partner network as well. So when we come out of that, the assessment, it's a readout to the CEO and the leadership team, and here's that high-risk area and high-return area. Maybe it's something like you've outgrown your CPA, you have major tax issues right now, tax exposure. We need to go take you to bid, essentially a mini RFP. Here's the 3 that we have curated in our list that you should talk to.
Okay.
Same with insurance brokers, same with commercial banks, lenders, debt providers, everything. We even get into some of them where we're like, look, if you have you've outgrown your bookkeeping function, which you have, you should hire a controller, but you might want to take your controller and supplement them with an offshore accounting firm. Here's a couple outsourced providers that we know that we'd refer.
Wow.
We're completely independent,
Yep.
and so we're always curating that list and talking to different partners in the network to figure out who the best products are out there for our customers.
Yeah. Are the companies that you're getting involved in, first of all, they're middle
Yes,
market?
yeah.
Right.
I'd say that if you take the bell curve, it's 100 million in revenue.
100 million, okay. And then, the length of the relationship depends, right?
Depends, yes.
Right? And you're industry agnostic?
Industry agnostic, yes. Yeah.
How do you find new clients? What's the process there? Do you have? I know you have a business development team.
There's a massive gap in the market. There's no one really doing this. There's some accounting firms that say they can do it, but they're using people that have never sat in a CFO seat.
Right.
And that we talked about that CFO seat being more operationally focused. You have to sit inside of a company to understand all the interplays. Yeah. And so we have different CFOs that have been in different environments. We have some that have been private-only environments with very deep family dynamics and gone through generational transfers of the business. That's a whole different world. We have others that have been through venture capital fundraising environments where they've taken a company from 0 to 100 million and done 10 rounds of financing. We have others that are like me that spent a mix of coming out of big companies and then going down in the private equity backed world. Right. And so you take all of that and you have this great recipe to solve all these different solutions, but you also have this recipe that means that if it's me, for instance, out on an engagement helping a customer, I have all this other experience behind me. Mm-hmm. So I'm not just a one-man person out there. Yeah. People ask us who our competitors are, and we oftentimes run into the fact that it's a one-man fractional CFO who's out there. Sure. The difference is that one man or woman fractional CFO, they can only pull from their experience. We can pull from the experience of 30 other people. Yeah,
that's great. What other issue? Okay, so you guys go in, you're now on the inside track. You've talked to the CEO, you've talked to the CFO, if they have one, and you're seeing all these issues in the organization, right? It's not just about the financial modeling.
Yeah, that's right.
What else do you see inside the organization?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. We went through one assessment. Controllership function was great. They did not have an FP&A function. But what they really needed, which we identified through the assessment, is they really needed sales support. Their commission structures were wrong. Their sales comp team was not incentivized the right way. They weren't held accountable the right way. The metrics weren't right. The KPIs weren't right. And so that came out of the assessment, and talking to the CEO, he's like, well, I'm going to pull in one of these sales advisors I've worked with before. And we were like, absolutely, you should be doing that. And so We're not working with him right now, but we'll go back in eventually when he gets
Right.
that piece of it cleared up, and then start to layer in the FP&A side.
Do you partner up with other firms to say, or do you just suggest like you
Suggest.
you
So
suggest?
we'll always give them 2 options.
Okay.
At a minimum. Maybe they want 3 or 4, but we'll always say, here's 2 that you should talk to, because a lot of times it comes down to, I might think this person is better than the other, but you need to have a fit. And so a lot of times it's, do you have that, connection with that person? Because they need to be a trusted advisor to you as well.
Yeah. So you think you're sophisticated. You're 85 people. You've got in my case $11 million in top line revenue. You're profitable, but I think back on the level of sophistication in finance, for example. I look at the controller that we had. If I were a buyer looking at my business, there's no way I would have gone in there.
Yeah.
And that's 11 million in revenue. That's a small business.
Sure, yeah.
That's not a big business. That was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but you look at $100 million company that doesn't have that sophistication. Man, I mean, it feels like you can go off the rails pretty quickly.
Very quickly, and you're leaving so much money on the table. And that's one of the things that private equity is really good at, is they'll make that investment in that $100 million company, and they'll build in a lot of this process. And what's naturally happening is EBITDA is going up, but the multiple's moving.
Yeah.
So an example of that is, let's say you have 4 million in EBITDA, but it's not really that accurate, it's not that good, and you don't have that good a process, you don't have a good forecast. So maybe you'll get a multiple of, let's say the multiple range is 10 to 12.
Right.
Let's go tight. So that's 40 million, 4 times 10,
Yeah.
right? But let's say that you can have a really sophisticated process, and you can come in there and you can find another $1 million, which is not, it sounds like a lot, but it's not a ton when you get into product level, product margin analysis, discipline inside the P&L, discipline inside the expenses. So let's say you get that up to 5, and you can move that to 12, because now all of a sudden you have really good financials looking backwards. You can take on more debt, essentially, and you have really strong financial projections because everything's tied together, and you have a very strong 3 to 5 year model with all the right KPIs. You're looking at 5 times 12. I mean, you're looking at a $60 million business.
Right,
So
exactly.
you've gone from 40 to 60 very quickly.
Very quickly.
And so that's some of the education that we go through with these CEOs. We'll just do it in a quick whiteboarding session.
Yeah.
And as soon as we dumb it down that much to them, all the light bulbs go off, because they're all bright enough. I mean, they've all grown phenomenal businesses.
Yep.
So they just needed somebody to kind of break it down for them in terms of how the math works.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's got to be one of the most difficult hurdles. We're going to wrap up, but one of the difficult hurdles, Rich, is to get the leader of the organization to recognize that when it's time to exit or ESOP it or whatever they want to
Right.
do,
Or
whatever the event
transition,
is,
yeah.
transition or transaction is, or transition is really, transformation is
Sure.
really. That they have to maximize that value. And,
Yes.
you're right, they leave so much money on the
They do.
table by not being sophisticated,
That's right. And some of the private equity firms live off of that.
They do, yeah.
And not all of them do, but some of them do live off of finding those companies where
Yeah.
they can instantly, professionalize the finance function
Yeah.
and see the EBITDA go up and even just flip the asset. It's almost like, flipping a house.
Absolutely. I love this, man. This was a great
Yes, it's great.
conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're welcome. Tell everyone how to get in touch with you and Maximus.
Sure.
please.
So you can reach out to me directly. My email's rcarroll, 2 R's, 2 L's, at maximuspartnersllc.com, or visit our website, maximuspartnersllc.com.
Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, thank you. This
Appreciate
is great.
it. You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you. All right, folks, that is a wrap for Language of Leadership. Check us out, man. We got the same jacket on. Didn't get it from the same place.
That's right.
But check out Maximus Partners, LLC, and Rich Carroll and his team. They're great people, very, very bright. We'll see you next time. Have a wonderful week. Take care.